Mortgage rates just ticked up a hair, but are still hanging near their lows for 2025. Big projects like the Quartz District and Potomac Shores keep inching forward, and a tiny town completely surrounded by a marine base is still one of the most fascinating spots on the map. Hey everyone, I'm Michael Brannon, and this is your Neighborhood Market Minute, Dumfries, Woodbridge, and beyond, where I turn local headlines and housing stats into something you can actually use to plan your next step, whether that's buying, selling, or just watching the market from the sidelines. Okay, let's start with the market data. Dumfries is seeing a steady but modest trickle of new listings, with homes taking a bit longer to go into contract than they did this summer. Buyers are starting to see more room to negotiate on price and closing costs, especially for homes that have been on the market for a few weeks. That means Dumfries is still competitive, but it's no longer a panic in the first 24 hours type of market. Woodbridge remains the workhorse of the area. Active inventory is higher than it was a month or two ago, and we're seeing more price adjustments as sellers test the upper edge of the market. Of course, well-presented homes in good condition are still moving, but buyers are pushing harder on inspection repairs and concessions. In other words, preparation matters. Buyers have options, and polished listings win. Over in Quantico, the inventory is thin and very location specific, so each listing tends to attract a niche pool of buyers, often active duty, federal, or contractor households who care deeply about commute and base access. Days on the market can look jumpy because there just aren't many properties at any given time. What that means, if you're selling near Quantico, pricing strategy and timing around PCS cycles can really make a difference. Now, Stafford continues to move at a more relaxed pace than in the peak frenzy years. You'll still see solid closing prices, but buyers are getting choosier on condition and commute. Some segments, especially nicely updated homes closer to I-95, are still drawing strong interest, while more remote or dated homes sit a bit longer. What that means for you? Stafford is where patience pays off for both buyers and sellers. Now let's talk about what's really going on with those rates. Freddie Mac's latest survey shows the 30-year fixed rate averaging about 6.22% as of December 11, 2025, which is up just a notch from 6.19% last week, and still below where we were a year ago. Now, the Fed has cut its benchmark rate several times this year, but as you may or may not know, mortgage rates don't move in lockstep with the Fed. They follow the 10-year Treasury and the broader bond market. That's why we're seeing rates drift slightly instead of crashing down, even after multiple cuts by the Fed. On the application side, the MBA reports overall mortgage applications are up about 4.8% week over week, with refis jumping and purchase applications slipping a bit. For VA and BAH-driven buyers in our area, that 6.2-ish interest rate means your monthly payments is still higher than the 3% days, but noticeably better than when we were flirting with 7% plus. It's the difference between this feels tight and this might actually pencil out for a lot of families. Okay, the Quartz District is now flagged for a public hearing with the Prince William County Planning Commission, and it was on the commission's schedule for this past week's meeting. That's one more step towards turning that long talked about mixed-use hub in Woodbridge into shovels in the ground. Stafford County rolled out a new interactive map to view pending developments, making it easier for residents to see what's coming, rezonings, new neighborhoods, and active residential projects all in one place. This is huge if you care about future traffic, schools, or long-term property values. Over in Potomac Shores, the town center continues to take shape. The Station House retail and the Central Park are moving forward. An elementary school is under construction, and the VRE station design has final approval, with station platform construction expected to start in 2026. When that station finally opens, it's going to reshape reasonable commute looks like for a whole bunch of Dumfries area buyers. This week's neighborhood spotlight is the town of Quantico. It's a tiny town inside of a base. The town of Quantico is famously the only civilian town inside the U.S. completely surrounded by a military base, with the Marine Corps base Quantico on one side, the Potomac River on another side, and the Quantico Creek on the other. Its roots go back to the mid-1600s as a small port and later a rail hub where multiple lines met at Quantico Creek, long before it became synonymous with the FBI Academy and Marine Corps training. From a housing perspective, Quantico is tiny, but its history, unique access, and tight link to federal employment create a very specific micro market where security, commute, and base operations all affect demand. Okay, here's a quick recap. Rates are hovering just above 6.2%, still near 2025 lows. Buyers have a little more leverage on price and terms, especially in Stafford and parts of Woodbridge. The Quartz District and the Potomac Shores continue to quietly move the ball downfield on future growth and transit. And Quantico remains one of the most unique housing stories in the country, a tiny town surrounded by a major base. Imagine that. And my viewer question of the week: if mortgage rates stayed in the low 6% range through spring, would that make you more likely to buy, sell, or stay put for another year? Please drop your answers in the comments. Hey, if this Neighborhood Market Minute was helpful, hit like, tap subscribe, and share it with a friend, one who's trying to make sense of this Northern Virginia market. And if you want a more personalized game plan for Dumfries, Woodbridge, Quantico, or Stafford, reach out and let's talk about your next steps. And remember, a dream without a plan is just a wish. I'm Michael Brannon. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.